Hello, this is Danny, welcoming you to the 2176th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 31st January 2019. The readers this week are Danny, Peter, Marc and Ros, with Hass on the controls. The editor was Phillip, and the production and distribution team is Alan and Ali. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from the Enfield Independent and Palmer's Green and Southgate Life magazine. The lead story this week, School Goes Against Parents' Will to Become Academy. Before the news, we have the sunrise and sunset times for the week beginning the 4th of February 2019, and they are sunrise at 7:35 and sunset at 16:55. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805 6578. She is your listeners' representatives and will be pleased to help you. Now, Peter will read the first item of local news.
A school goes against parents' will to become an academy. Councillors have railed against the forced academisation of schools, which they say is draining funds and going against parents' wishes. Enfield Council's cabinet members last Wednesday hit out at plans by Walker Primary School in Southgate to convert to academy status, warning taxpayers' money was being spent on an organisation that would no longer be under local authority control. Academies are directly funded by the Department for Education and are also allowed to raise money from sponsorship deals. The government offers financial incentives for schools to move away from local academies. Cabinet members' comments came during a discussion on a £60 million scheme to boost fire safety measures in the borough's schools. Councillor Daniel Anderson, Enfield Council's deputy leader, said, Walker Primary School is in the fire safety report as a school rebuild. As people may be aware, the school has voted to become an academy, and yet here we are investing resources in something that will be lost to the local authority. It really hurts the gut when we know more of our families are being lost in this way, yet there is nothing we can do to stop this. Councillor Anderson added that it was a crying shame that taxpayers' money was being lost into an organisation the council would have no control over. Councillor Achilles Georgiou, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, said, It is a real shame that Walker's governors have gone against the will of the vast majority of parents to become an academy. He added that he had met with a group of parents who are planning to stand up to governors and urge them to rethink their decision. Councillor Georgiou said there is still an opportunity for governors to pull back from going down the academy route. Council leader, Councillor Nezil Kaliskan, said, The agenda for forced academisation is not letting up, and pointed out that Galliard School in Edmonton was also planning to become an academy. Councillor Kaliskan said the decision was not prompted or welcomed by local residents, from my understanding, or from parents, and certainly not from the unions that represent the interests of staff that work there. She continued, Every time a local authority school that is experiencing a deficit decides to academise, it costs this local authority money because their deficit stays with the local authority. Not only do we lose them from the local authority family, which fundamentally damages our communities, but it also costs this authority and other schools money. Cabinet members agreed the report's recommendation to invest the £60 million, which is being provided from central government, to improve fire safety in the borough's schools.
Nature conservation area earmarked for waste plant. Councillors have given the nod to a plan that could see a waste plant built in a nature conservation area. Haringey Council's Cabinet has agreed to include the Pinkham Way site to the North Circular Road as the borough's contribution to the North London Waste Plan, NLWP. The land, a former sewage works and landfill site, has been disused for more than 20 years and has since become home to trees and other forms of wildlife. In October, the Council's Regulatory Committee called for Pinkham Way to be removed from the list of sites earmarked for a possible waste plant. But Cabinet members yesterday chose to press ahead with the plans following a heated exchange between campaigners from the Pinkham Way Alliance, PWA, council officers and council leader, Councillor Joseph Ejiofor. PWA chairman Stephen Bryce claimed planning officers had tried to redesignate the site as locally significant industrial land through the back door. He added that the Cabinet report contained no mention of a submission from Natural England. Mr. Bryce said, "It comments that the Pinkham Way site has formed a rich bioverse mix of habitats, while will be a loss to Haringey and more widely to the London itself if developed." He claimed this put it on a par with metropolitan sites that are of the highest priority for protection. The PWA chairman said, "As employment land, it is not given 1 minute of employment in the 19 years it has been employment land. There is not a word of this in any of the reports." Evelyn Ryan, also of the PWA, said, "You are the only borough which is prepared to give away a Grade 1 site of importance for nature conservation on no grounds whatsoever." She claimed the heavily contaminated land had been deemed unsuitable for employment by inspectors. But Emma Williamson, the Council's Assistant Director of Planning, said the PWA representatives were selectively quoting from an inspector's report and that it was an employment site. She said, "It is also a site of importance for nature conservation. We don't believe those two uses together can't be compatible. The site is not currently open space, the land is contaminated." In terms of the viability reports, those reports that have been quoted were in relation to if there had been a new employment use being put forward on the site. It is not relevant in this particular instance because it would be the Waste Authority that was bringing forward a waste use for that site, so it is not correct to quote it in that particular way. If approved by the full Council on Thursday, the waste plan will go ahead to a public consultation.
Heads should roll over delays to new home scheme. Enfield Council has come under fire after a Cabinet report revealed extra cash will have to be pumped into a delayed housing scheme. Conservative leader Councillor Joanne Laban branded the situation a disgrace and called for people to be sacked after the report revealed the small sites house building scheme would be delayed for several months. The report states discrepancies in designs priced by contractor AMCM have led to cost overruns and homes would not be finished until June instead of being completed on a phased basis in early 2019. It comes on top of earlier delays to the small site scheme that meant that some half-completed homes had to be pulled down due to weather damage. Councillor Laban said, "The fact that Enfield's Labour Council requires a vast amount of additional money for this scheme is a disgrace. Enfield Council finds itself nearly a decade on from proposals when this was first discussed, and these sites were a scheme uncompleted and over budget. How can Enfield Council deliver a 10,000 home project at Meridian Water when it cannot even build homes on the smallest of developments on time and on budget? Heads should roll over this because the taxpayers of Enfield should not be expected to have to bail out this incompetent Labour Council." Begun in 2012, the council-led small site scheme, which was split into 2 phases, aims to provide 140 homes, including affordable rent and shared ownership properties. Phase 2 is now complete, but the delivery of Phase 1 was held up following the collapse of a key contractor in 2015. The council renegotiated the contracts in 2017 and pumped extra money into the scheme. But the report says discrepancies in the designs priced by AMCM, one of the new contractors, emerged in 2018 and have led to cost overruns. It adds that unforeseen problems were encountered, with mould arising on plasterboards and delivery will have to be pushed back from early 2019 to June. The report states that delaying the scheme further could lead to partially built homes suffering weather damage. Sarah Carey, Executive Director of the Place at Enfield Council, told the Cabinet meeting, "The Council is committed to delivering affordable homes, and we have done that through a number of ways, one of which is small sites development." Phase 2 completed this year with 13 homes, all sold to local people. Phase 1 consists of 94 homes across 7 sites, and half of those are affordable rent and shared ownership. The contractor responsible for those 7 sites went into administration in 2015, and in 2017 we renegotiated a different contractor to complete them. The new contractors have claimed further costs arising from issues from before they took over the site. We are still negotiating, but we will need authorisation to complete the new homes. This still provides a positive contribution to the housing revenue account, and we expect all homes to be completed this year. Council leader Councillor Nesl Kaliskan said, "The report sets out a direction to get Phase 1 back on track and to ensure that overall there is a positive contribution to the HRA."
Empty homes face 100% council tax increase. Enfield and Haringey councils are slapping higher taxes on empty homes in a bid to boost housing supply and bring in more revenue. Both local authorities last week announced they would increase the council tax premium on long-term empty homes from 50% to 100%. It is hoped the extra charges, which come on top of the standard council tax bill, will encourage people to put their homes on the market as London continues to face an acute housing shortage. Enfield Council expects the move will raise an extra £221,615 a year, while in Haringey it could bring in £185,000, although the amounts could fall as homes are brought back into use. The charges, which come in response to changes to government legislation, will apply from April the 1st to homes that have been left empty and substantially unfurnished for 2 years. At a meeting of Haringey's Cabinet last Tuesday, Councillor Patrick Berryman, Cabinet Member for Finance, said, "The Labour Group manifesto in 2018 was clear. We are committed to redistributing the burden of council tax and ensuring the greatest weight is placed on the broadest shoulders. We are ensuring we target support that those residents in particular need. However, until we get a change in government, we face further restrictions on our ability to support residents due to tight funding. In this financial context, we believe it is right to increase the premium payable on long-term empty properties." Councillor Berryman pointed out revenues would fall as homes were brought back into use, but said the contribution to the council's finances would be a net positive for a year or two at least. Some groups, such as members of the armed forces who are posted away from home for long term, will be exempt from the extra charges. Enfield's Cabinet agreed to roll out the higher charges at a meeting last Wednesday. The Cabinet also pledged to keep the level of council tax support for low-income households at the same level as last year, with a minimum contribution for working-age households not in a protected group at 26.5%.
Appeal after McDonald's stabbing. Police continue to appeal for witnesses after 3 men were stabbed in a McDonald's full of parents and children. Around 6 or 7 men armed with knives ambushed the fast food restaurant in Fall Street, Edmonton, at 7:15 p.m. on a recent Thursday. 4 diners were already in the restaurant and they were attacked with knives as terrified families fled. 3 men, aged in their early 20s, suffered stab wounds and were all taken to hospital. They have all since been discharged from hospital. A smartly dressed elderly man wearing spectacles was almost injured during the attack. The suspects are described as black, slim, and around 16 to 20 years old. They were wearing dark clothing and had their faces partially covered with masks and scarves. Some of them were also carrying bags. Following the triple stabbing, A Section 60 order was in force across parts of Enfield between 4 p.m. on Friday and 3 a.m. Saturday. It allowed police to stop and search anyone in the area if they believed there could be a threat of violence.
Lifts break down 3 or 4 times a day. A tower block's lifts broke down and left a disabled woman stranded for hours after Enfield Council said it had fixed the elevators. Sybil Yildirim, who lives in Bliss House in Forty Hill, said the woman was waiting on her scooter in the lobby for more than 6 hours last Monday, January the 21st, because the 40 lifts broke down again. The council said engineers had fitted a new part to one of the lifts in the Holbrook Close flats on January the 15th, and it was back up and running. But Mrs. Yildirim said it was still breaking down regularly, while another lift that served the odd-numbered flats had been out of action since November. She said, "When I came home at 6:30 on Monday, a lady on a mobility scooter had been stuck down in the lobby from 3 p.m. and was there until 9:15 p.m. They didn't come out for a good 5 hours. There was a man on the stairs who was out of breath. It is not just affecting people with disabilities. They come and reset it and then go, and then that is fixed. It breaks down 3 or 4 times a day. It will be working fine, then 5 minutes later it is broken. You could even get stuck in there." Some residents have said that the engineers need to get parts from America because they are not sold in the UK anymore. They need to do a permanent thing, and the only thing is up to date to the lifts. A spokesman for Enfield Council said Bliss House will have its lifts completely renovated in the 2019 to 2020 financial year as part of its £40 million major works programme. They added, other works scheduled include the installation of external insulation, rendering and the replacement of pipework. Security features will be checked and, where necessary, repaired. We will continue to make sure the block is safe, secure, and emergency repairs are undertaken in a timely manner. Lift breakdowns are always treated as an emergency, and we aim to fix them as quickly as possible. In most cases, we are able to repair malfunctioning lifts expediently, but in this particular case, some work has had to be undertaken off-site. We are sorry for the inconvenience this has caused some residents, and we would like to reassure them that we are here to help, particularly those who are in need of extra assistance. Enfield Council is committed to providing good quality homes in thriving, well-connected neighbourhoods, and we look forward to working closely with our residents to achieving those goals.
Boost for town centre amid online shopping threat. A 10-year plan to boost opportunities in town centres under threat from online shopping has been agreed by councillors. Haringey Council's strategy for Tottenham High Road will provide affordable workspace and promote leisure and cultural opportunities in a bid to attract more people to the area and protect thousands of jobs. The council will carry out 5 major projects in Bruce Grove, Seven Sisters and Tottenham Green and High Cross. These will involve measures such as making public places more accessible, improving air quality and supporting culture. The projects come on top of the enterprising Tottenham High Road scheme to provide business space at the former Tottenham Brewery Gatehouse.
Radio station wins £1,000 Tesco grant. A hospital radio station has relocated and purchased new studio equipment after receiving a £1,000 grant from Tesco. Royal Free Radio, previously known as Radio Enfield, was established in 1970 by a group of school friends. The friends started broadcasting to patients in Chase Farm Hospital in Enfield 1 day a week. Today, the station broadcasts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and reaches patients in Royal Free Hospital and North Middlesex University Hospital. Royal Free Radio Chairman David Scarf said, "The Tesco Bags of Help grant was a great help in getting the project off the ground, and we very much appreciate the support shown by Tesco in helping us achieve our aim."
Help save Enfield's Greenbelt. An appeal by Councillor Joanne Laban. You might be thinking, what is a local plan? Local plans set out the big decisions on planning for the future of communities. They outline the long-term strategy for each planning authority, in our case, Enfield Council. Every local planning authority must create a local plan to guide the future development of their area. Future planning decisions must then be made in accordance with that plan. Consultation with neighbourhood organisations and business is a key part of creating local plans, making sure that they reflect the future needs of the whole community. Engaging in that consultation process is the best way to help shape the future development. Local plans set out the strategic priorities for development of an area and cover housing, commercial, public and private development, including transport infrastructure, along with protection for the local environment. Enfield Council is currently working on a new local plan to shape how our borough is developed in the future. The key challenges it needs to address are ensuring there is enough housing to meet everyone's needs, creating better employment opportunities and promoting economic growth, reviewing infrastructure and community facilities, the future role of our town centres, creating places that promote health and well-being, ensuring development is high quality and protects the environment. A draft local plan document has already been created. I do not think anyone can argue that Enfield, and indeed London, requires more homes. However, this draft document floats the idea of potentially allowing development on Enfield's green belt by redesignating the use of the land. Enfield's green belt is therefore under threat. For many residents, Enfield's unique selling point and charm is its mix between town and country within one borough. The mix of housing, town centres, businesses, high streets, parks, open spaces and countryside make Enfield what it is. The green belt benefits London air quality, supports our agriculture industry, helps reduce the rise, risk and impact of flooding, and provides habitats for London's wildlife. Enfield does have brownfield land. The council has been working on a 10,000 home scheme in Edmonton called Meridian Water for a decade, yet it has not produced a single home. A development project on several very small sites has been going on for 8 years. Enfield needs to get on with completing these schemes and developing new ones on brownfield land before taking the easy way out through building on Greenbelt. Our neighbouring boroughs have been more successful in building new homes than Enfield, so it is time that we caught up. If you want to participate in the consultation, it will run, and consultation on the draft document will run from 5th of December 2018 to 28th of February 2019. This is your chance to save Enfield's Greenbelt and help develop our vision by telling Enfield Council what you think the borough should be like in the future.
Sport. We need to be firing again. Enfield Ignatian's poor run of form stretched to 6 consecutive losses as they went down 33-24 to bottom team Letchworth Garden City. The result has implications for the relegation battle as the two sides currently propping up the table are now level on points, with Ignatian's only marginally in front in 10th by virtue of a superior points differential. Ignatian's head coach Shane Manning said, "It's unbelievably frustrating, although the losing bonus point could prove crucial come the end of the season. We need to be picking up bonus points regardless of the result. We have Harpenden at home on February the 9th, so it doesn't get any easier. We need to be firing again rather than misfiring." Ignatian's had started brightly with Jack Bates's charge down effort. Although Letchworth levelled soon after, Enfield restored the lead when Liam Dunn went over from a maul. Letchworth began to gain a foothold in the game through and claimed a further 2 tries via their backline to secure a narrow lead. Ignatian's freshened up their team after the break by introducing Say Addison, Liam Horn and Jordan Wilson, but it did little to change their fortunes. Letchworth went over for another try, this time after Ignatians were cruelly beaten by the bounce of the ball to lead them further adrift. Although much of the closing period was about damage limitation, after struggling, Letchworth had steamed into a surprising lead. Ignatians, to their credit, rallied in the final 10 minutes. They collected a further 2 tries, which secured a losing bonus point, as Cairo Sango and Gareth Rutt went over.
And here's a letter written in by Douglas Went, and he's entitled "It Concerns for Wildlife." I have been a resident in the area of Cowper Garden, Southgate, for nigh 50 years. During that time, I've managed to build up a wonderful rapport with the bird life in a garden which I specially designed to attract the many and varying species that take to a garden habitat. I believe that I achieved great success, and over the years, my endeavours rewarded me with a rich buzz of bird life constantly flitting out of the trees onto their feeding area. The goldfinches in particular were amazing. I had charms of 50 or more at any one time, showing off a beautiful flash of colour. In short, I had created a bird lover's paradise, and I was a very happy bunny indeed, watching the daily show from my kitchen window. Just over a year ago, work began on a new housing estate close to my back garden. Initially, the groundwork to the site did not disrupt my little bit of heaven too much, but as time went on, all the birds have disappeared, except for the faithful robin. I know all about the behaviour patterns of birds, and this is definitely not a migratory move by the birds, and the sudden change is purely down to their habitat being interfered with. The prime examples of habitat destruction was the sudden presence of a monstrous towering crane working all day, long just 20 feet from my garden, coupled with building site noises of an unbelievable level. And then there is the nighttime floodlighting, making it impossible for birds to roost in the trees. This, I know, will come over as a very selfish moan on my part, and that I should be prepared to sacrifice what I created in my garden over 50 years. Surprisingly, I fully accept that progress needs to be made on the housing issue we face, and I pen this only to put over the fact that the interfering of wildlife habitat should always be seriously addressed when changes are being made. As for the new housing development being carried out, all I can say is that it was supposed to be a vast improvement on the old housing estate due to be demolished. From where I live, it looks like replacing like with like, building more of the same old eyesores.
And here's another letter from Colin Lee Owen, founder Career Paths Online, and it's headed "Stop Knife Crime." Dear Mayor Khan, I am feeling despondent after I had contacted you and expressed my grave concerns. The knife crime currently taking place in Edmonton is unacceptable, and I urgently requested your assistance to tackle it. Sadly, I've been informed that some serious knife crimes have taken place in Edmonton on Saturday, January 19 and Tuesday, January 22nd. Last week, on Saturday, 3 males armed with blades reportedly burst into the McDonald's restaurant in 4th Street, Edmonton, and carried out knife attacks. On Tuesday, there was a triple stabbing in Edmonton, leaving 3 young men injured, and one of the men is in a critical condition. During the past 3 years, I've been working tirelessly to establish a digital tech hub in Edmonton Green to develop the skills of young people and keep them away from knife crime. I was very disappointed to learn that the London Borough of Enfield Young Londoners funding application was unsuccessful. This could have helped us to take young people off the streets and encourage them to gain the necessary digital skills to improve their job prospects. I would like to request if you could please forward me the contact details of those organisations that have received Young Londoners funding to explore if they could assist us to establish the digital hub in Edmonton Green and to improve the future of young people and to reduce the amount of knife crime. Thank you, and I look forward to receiving your reply.
Here's some more football news. Fine victory boosts playoff prospects. Enfield Town ended a run of 3 consecutive defeats with a resounding 3-0 away win against Worthing to leave them within a point of the playoff spots in the Bostik Premier Division. Matt Johnson's brace after the break added to Billy Bricknell's opener for the Towners, who put on a quality display of purpose and attacking intent. The result ended a league goal drought of 365 minutes and also secured a first league clean sheet since October 20th. Both sides had attacks in the early stages of the game as Mickey Parcell had two efforts blocked, one by the Worthing defence and the other, inadvertently, by Sam Youngs, while Dan Rumens also twice headed over from corners for the visitors. However, Enfield began to crank up the pressure and the hosts were thankful to goalkeeper Cleighton Perntrew, who came off his line well to save from Aaron Green on two occasions. Just when Town thought it was going to be another one of those days, their goal drought was ended as Marc Weatherston got his head to Parcell's corner and Bricknell was on hand to squeeze the ball over the line between Perntrew and the post. There was one nervy moment for Town before the breakthrough, as Ricky Aguiar's free kick was parried away by Joe Wright, and there was an almighty scramble in the area before the visitors just about cleared their lines. Andy Lees' side struck so quickly after the break that some supporters were yet to re-emerge for the second half. Parcell's shot was charged down and the ball broke to Johnson outside the area after he crashed a shot past Perntrew and into the top corner for a goal of the season contender. Barely a few minutes later, Enfield added a third goal to all but seal the game when Wright's long punt downfield was collected by Parcell and his ball inside found Johnson to convert for the second time. Worthing did their best to come back into the game, and their closest chance came when James Crane slid in to meet a cross, but his effort was well blocked by a last-ditch tackle. Enfield were keen to add to their tally, though, and went close again through Johnson, but he couldn't quite connect with a diving header, and Perntrew did well to keep out another Young's header. Meanwhile, record goal scorer Liam Hope has moved to Malden and Tiptree, leaving Town for the second time, having returned to the Queen Elizabeth II Stadium in November 2017. During his two spells, he made 297 appearances and scored 118 goals, and Lees said, "We are sorry to lose Liam at this stage of the season, but respect his wish to get more game time. He has been fantastic for us since he came back, a proper player in every respect."
Theatre, New Voices. A dazzling array of voices combined to form Monologue 2, Chicken Shed's new selection of fresh writing. Chicken Shed will return to its roots by performing Monologue 2 in their intimate new Shed Theatre space from February the 12th to March the 2nd. Performed with minimal staging, Monologue 2 will allow the unique power of the written word to reveal some comic and tragic truths about living. The 7 pieces, selected from a huge number of submissions, shine a light on individual experiences. The subjects of the monologues are hugely varied: a dystopian view of social media oversharing, youth protest, disability and artistic expression, life as a second-generation immigrant in 21st century Britain, and the honest experience of spending 3 years in prison. Chicken Shed is situated at Chayside, Southgate, N14 4PE, and the show will be performed from Tuesday, February the 12th to Saturday, March the 2nd at various times. Details are on 0208 292 9222, and the website is chickenshed.org.uk.
Comedian's Book comes to the stage in a new family-friendly musical. To many, David Baddiel is known for his award-winning work as a comedian and presenter. But in recent years, David has also become known as an award-winning author and the brightest new star of children's books. Since making his debut with the Parent Agency in 2015, his children's novels have gone on to sell over 1 million copies. One such novel is Anna Malcolm, a runaway bestseller which tells the story of Malcolm, a boy who doesn't like animals, which is a problem because his family love them. Their house is full of pets of all shapes and sizes. The only bright spot on the horizon is the Year 6 school trip, which Malcolm never thought his parents would pay for. And yet there he is, on the bus, heading to a farm. But on the school trip like no other, Malcolm begins to understand animals more deeply than anyone. Now, Annie Malcolm has been adapted for the stage as a gloriously funny musical from the award-winning Story Pocket Theatre, and after a smash hit debut at the 2018 Edinburgh Fringe Festival, the production will play at Millfield Theatre as part of a major UK tour. David says, "Annie Malcolm is my third book for children, and I think it's my funniest. Animals are lovable, cute, sweet, friendly, and nice to cuddle, but they're always, always funny. The amount of animal videos now swirling around the internet is testament to how entertaining we find our furry companions. But why exactly do we find them so funny?" David explains, "They're what we in the comedy call deadpan, meaning their faces never really change. So in almost any situation you put an animal in, they always just look like that. Okay, it's happening." Which, if they're falling off a sofa, or running into a plate of glass, or eating a pair of sunglasses, makes absolutely no difference. A self-confessed animal lover, David has always been interested in our curious relationships with our pets. "I myself have 4 cats and a guinea pig," he said. "I wrote Annie Malcolm partly because I've never ever lived without animals, and I'm often struck by how wonderful it is that pets just happily accept they're living with you in your house, even though they haven't paid rent or had an interview to become your lodger. But then I wondered what it would be like if you didn't immediately feel drawn to animals, or you find them cute or funny, what a strange thing that would be. So I created Malcolm, who just doesn't get animals, but lives in a house full of them. And the story took off from there. It's been such a thrill to see Annie Malcolm brought to life on stage and as a musical. Story Pocket have done a wonderful job with this adaptation, and it will be a real treat to see Malcolm adventuring around the UK with his menagerie of animals in tow." Now, we're lucky in Enfield as Millfield Theatre, Silver Street, Edmonton will play host to it on Friday, March the 29th at 5 p.m, and details can be found on millfieldtheatre.co.uk.
And next, the Torquays Community Cinema. And the Torquays Suburban Film Festival returns in 2019 with a feast of talents, starting with local actor Lindsay Coulson introducing Funny Cow, Professor Kurt Barling using film extracts to introduce the recent history of the capital through Londoners he met as a BBC correspondent, and for our grand finale, yet another batch of amazing short films commissioned by Torquays and shot in the area. And here are some of the things that you can see on the programme. Thursday, February the 7th at the Dugdale Centre, The Piano, Jane Campion's powerful film, first released 25 years ago, is set in mid-19th century New Zealand. Saturday, February the 16th, Waterhouse Hall, N21, Funny Cow. Maxine Peake plays the gritty role of a comedian who breaks through the glass ceiling of the all-male 1970s comedy circuit. March the 8th, Bounds Green Club, London Unplugged, an anthology about modern Londoners from a largely female-led talent pool of emerging filmmakers. Thursday, March the 14th, the Dugdale Centre, Beast, a smartly layered psychological thriller that puts an eerily windswept island location to fine use. March 21st, the Dugdale Centre, The Lives of Londoners. Kurt Barling uses film footage to introduce 10 Londoners who frame key social and political events. Saturday, March 23, Waterhouse Hall, N21, Quadrophenia, live Who tribute from local band before a classic film about the alienation of 1960s British working-class youth. And Saturday, April 28, St John's Hall, N13, Shorts Premiere, the 2019 Torquays commissions by talented young makers creating short films located in Palmer's Green. And for more details, please visit ticket booking at www.torquays.org.uk.
We have a letter on the subject of pedal power, responding to an earlier comment from a Mr. G.A. Musey. Use pedal power. Councillor Daniel Anderson says, GA Musey opposes the reintroduction of dockless hire bikes onto Enfield streets, claiming that the previous scheme was a disaster. He couldn't be further from the truth. The green Urbo bikes we had on our streets last spring were extremely popular. Indeed, all 125 of the initial batch, intended for the A105 route, were in use, many across Edmonton, such that we were short of bikes along green lanes. In fact, we were just at the point of having a mass expansion when Urbo, having had a change of management and company direction, chose to pull out of London, thereby detrimentally affecting us and the neighbouring scheme in Waltham Forest. We have since then been actively seeking to source other hire bikes, but up until recently this has been to no avail. For instance, last summer we signed up with OFO, but when they too also decided to withdraw from London, thereby depriving our residents of the chance to ride yellow hire bikes. Nonetheless, we have persevered, and we have now managed to forge a new partnership, this time with London company Beryl and their turquoise-coloured bikes. This innovative dockless technology is currently being trialled with a number of pooled bikes for council staff use, procured with funding from Transport for London. All being well, we hope to roll out these more widely in the spring and hope that we can finally expand the dockless hire bike scheme to its full potential, enabling many more of our residents to enjoy healthy, active travel journeys across Enfield. So please, let's stop peddling myths and instead use pedal power to get around town.
More theatre. Motown Magic. Music fans are invited to the biggest party of the year as the Unstoppable Magic of Motown show steams into town on February the 9th. Prepare yourself for 40 back-to-back classic Motown hits, glittering costume changes, dazzling dance moves and outstanding musicianship. Celebrate the sound of a generation as the timeless music of Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, The Supremes, Martha Reeves, Jackson 5, Smokey Robinson and more are sensationally recreated for you by an exceptionally talented cast and band. The Millfield Arts Centre is situated at Silver Street, Edmonton, N18 1PJ, and the show will be performed on Saturday, February the 9th at 8 p.m. You can get further details on 0208 807 6680.
And here's a rather thought-provoking piece, parliamentary comment by Bambos Charalambos MP, and he's called this a thin blue line. Over the last 2 months, I've been shocked by the spike in violent crime being committed across Enfield. The most shocking for Enfield Southgate was the murder of a vulnerable elderly man in Bowes Ward in his own home. Our community is heartbroken and we send our deepest sympathies to his family. Subsequent aggravated burglaries and attempted burglaries have been reported in Southgate Green and Winchmore Hill, and I have heard first-hand from the victims of those burglaries of the sheer terror and fear as to what happened to them when they came home and their security was violated. At numerous packed-out public meetings, I have heard from residents who have deep concerns about their safety and the safety of their families. Constituents have approached me to let me know of worrying incidents while out in Enfield where their safety was at risk. Although there are actions we can take ourselves to make our homes a bit safer and to be more safety conscious while we are out, we should not be forced to live in fear. I know our police service is doing the best they can, but the huge cuts to the funding by central government is making it close to impossible to deliver the public service that we need. The recent Home Office Affairs Select Committee report, Policing for Future, concluded that without additional funding for policing, there will be dire consequences for public safety, criminal justice and public confidence. We recognise this effect in Enfield right now. In Enfield, we have lost 400 officers, and we now only have between 20 and 30 officers on duty at any time. The small amount of resources will have to focus on a serious incident at any one time, leaving some other parts of the borough without a police presence. This isn't just my conclusion. This is what police officers told residents at public meetings. I remember back in 2006 when the Safe Neighbourhood teams were rolled out across the borough with 6 dedicated officers. This number has dwindled to just 3 officers per 10,000 people. When you consider that officers have to work shifts, it's a sobering thought that this thin blue line is all that is keeping us safe. I've heard some residents suggest that they want to pay for their own security on their road, but this really isn't the society I want to live in. I'm absolutely opposed to the ideology of draining our public services, forcing people to pay privately. Our society should be collectively responsible for everyone's health, education and prosperity, and of course safety. We do this through fair taxation, redistribution of wealth and decent public services based on need. The first duty of any government is to keep its citizens safe. My fear is that we have reached the tipping point. I have raised the need for substantial investment in policing in Parliament, and I will continue to do so. We just cannot allow things to continue the way they have been.
And next, Exploring Art After Children by Annette Danusian. My interest in art started from an early age, but has steadily resurfaced again since having children, and is now one of my greatest passions. I'm an incredibly proud mother of 4, which consumes all my time, so creating a space for my art is so important to me and for the development of my work. I've always been fascinated by the discipline of image making. I find myself engaged by many types and styles of work. Being able to take myself off into my own space creates that real sense of escapism that is so necessary to indulge in the creative process. Having been out of practice for so long, I feel very fortunate to have developed and arrived at a style and process which really speaks to me and the direction I want to continue to take with my work. With figurative art, you choose your subject and observe it. If it's a still life, all the answers are there for you. You just need to refer to its form, colour, light, and environment. But with abstract art, you have no point of reference. You continue through emotion and ideas. Your job is not to observe, but to explore and discover through your own processes. This is the part I have found very interesting. I love the spontaneity of my work, the colour combinations and forms that occur through exploring and pairing. The medium I mainly work in is acrylic paint. Acrylics can take on such beautiful movement and colour. It seems as if there is no end to the variations I can achieve by manoeuvring and manipulating. I love the way my children see my paintings. They engage them with such innocence and excitement. They taught me, though, some of the things they see in an attempt to make their own sense of them. It's such a beautiful way of experiencing any artwork, and I would hope that anyone who views my paintings could approach them in the same way. Please enjoy my exhibition at Anthony Webb Estate Agents, 348 Green Lanes, Palmer's Green, from now until March 2019, or visit www.andartworks.com.
Right, we're trying to break the mould and we're sharing this next set of reading between myself and Marc. It's an account of the case of the missing house on the green, Minchenden House, and the article is by Chris Horner. This is essentially a story of the most substantial house in Southgate, occupied by a succession of titled nobility, hosting King William II, and appointed with works of art including the only genuine portrait of William Shakespeare, but then falling into disrepair due to its owner's bankruptcy. This article describes the evolution of the site and the story of its inhabitants. The penultimate owner being described in the Times as, "He flung all away by extravagance and folly, and reduced his honours to the tinsel of a pauper and the bauble of a fool." From the beginning of recorded times, Southgate and Palmer's Green had been a wooded landscape that have now evolved into a built landscape interspersed with trees. 1,000 years ago, dense oak forests covered the southeast of England, and the ancient communities living within the woodland of Southgate used the forests as a resource. oak timbers for constructing their houses and furniture, fuel for kindling and charcoal, oak acorns for milling into flour or for feeding to their herds of pigs which roamed freely in the forests. Oak bark was used in the leather tannin process and as a medicine. In the 1600s, the lands around Southgate were held by the Augustinian Priory of St Mary in Clerkenwell, forming part of the Charterhouse estate. The Enclosure Act of 1750 instigated a change to the surrounding landscape. Trees were felled and common lands fenced, sold and divided into plots for cultivation, farming and raising livestock. The derivation of Minchendon was Mincen or Minchen, an order of nuns in Clerkenwell holding land at Minchin Wood. The wood passed on to the Cecil family of Hatfield, then to John Weld in 1614, to Sir Thomas Stringer, then on to Sir Thomas Wolstenholme, who built Minchenden House in 1664. The house and grounds were sold to Sir David Heckstetter. It was then bought by John Nicol as his residence in 1736. The house, built on the south side of the green, was a substantial 3-storey brick-built house with a lower basement and 35 rooms. The front elevation was formed in 3 bays, each bay having 3 large windows in the classical Georgian style, including a stable block and a coach house, all being surrounded by a high brick wall. Parts of the estate wall can still be seen running along the footpath on the south side of the green towards Christchurch and the Minchenden Oak Garden on Waterfall Road. The estate comprised extensive gardens including land, which was then known as Chapel Fields, now known as the Walker Ground. Improvements were made to the house, including the addition of a smoking room, a library, a new staircase, and alterations to the entrance portico and roof parapet. Soon after buying the house, John Nicol died, and the estate passed to his only daughter Margaret Nicol, who became a wealthy heiress with marriageable status. Margaret Nicol, then aged 18, was courted and married by James Bridges, aged 22, on the 22nd of May 1753. James was a local man educated at Cambridge University, a ranger of Enfield Chase and governor of Charterhouse, and a man with a title, 3rd Duke of Chandos, whose family wealth had accumulated in part from trading interests in the West Indies. The couple married at St George's Church, Hanover Square, Westminster, a church where Handel, a family friend, had been organist. The Minchenden House estate became the Duke and Duchess's country seat in place of the Bridges' earlier country seat at Cannons Park, Little Stanmore near Edgware, which had been demolished in 1747. The Duke and Duchess divided their time between leafy Southgate and their Westminster home. Chandos House, a stone-built, Grade 1 listed townhouse designed in the Georgian style by Robert Adam, located at Chandos Row behind what is now the Langham Hotel. The Duke's responsibility included his appointments as Grand Master of the Freemasons from 1754 to 1764, Whig MP for Winchester 1754 to 1768, Whig MP for Radnorshire 1761 to 1768, Lord of the King's Bedchamber 1760 to 1764, Lord Lieutenant of Hampshire 1763 to 1764 and 1771 to 1780, invested as King's Privy Councillor on 12th of May 1775 and Lord Steward of the Royal Household 1783 to 1790.
Margaret Nicol, the Duchess of Chandos, died on 14th of August 1768, aged 33, after 15 years of marriage, and is buried in a marble sarcophagus at the Church of St Lawrence, Little Stanmore, on the Cannons estate in the Chandos family mausoleum. The Chandos mausoleum was built as an addition to the Church of St Lawrence by the first Duke of Chandos in 1735. Its walls are decorated with trompe-l'oeil figures and Italianate columns, and has a marble monument to the first Duke designed by Gwynning Gibbons. After the death of his first wife, Margaret Nicol, the Duke married Anne Elizabeth Gammon on 21st of June 1777, again at St George's Church in Hanover Square, and they had 2 children, Georgiana Charlotte Bridges, born 6th of September 1778, and Anna Eliza Bridges, born 22nd of October 1779. The third Duke died on the 29th of September 1789, aged 58, from injuries received when his wife inadvertently moved the chair that he was about to sit on. He was buried in the family mausoleum at Little Stanmore. His wife, the Dowager Duchess Anne, was certified insane and continued living at both Minchenden House and Chandos House until her death at Chandos House on the 20th of January 1813, aged 78. The estate then passed to the daughter Anna Eliza Bridges, a ward of court. She married Earl Temple, the Marquess of Buckingham, and son of Prime Minister George Grenville, in April 1796, when she was aged 17. He was aged 20, and the marriage needed an Act of Parliament to enable them to marry underage. By 1815, at the age of 39, the now Duke of Buckingham and Chandos, known as the Marquess of Buckingham, had accrued county houses at Minchenden, Stowe, Wootton, Gosford and Abington, and 2 London townhouses, Chandos House and Buckingham House, and some 58,000 acres of land and a Jamaican plantation. Through poor management and profligate spending, outgoings soon exceeded income. Borrowings, interest repayments and debts mounted, and properties fell into a state of disrepair. In 1823, the Duchess desperately packed away the contents of Minchenden House, including a collection of paintings, and put the house out to rent. She died in 1836, after 40 years of marriage. Her husband followed soon after, and the estate and debts fell to their son, the Marquess of Buckingham. The Marquess died on 17th of January 1839, and Minchenden House, which had been rented out and fallen into neglect, then passed to his son Richard, and 2nd Duke of Buckingham and Chandos. Richard was declared bankrupt with debts of over £1 million in 1847, and in 1848 all the contents of Stowe House were sold by Christie's, including the portrait of Shakespeare, inherited from Margaret Nicol and now hanging in the National Gallery. In 1853, Minchenden House and Chapel Fields were sold to Isaac Walker of Arnos House. The land was absorbed into the Arnos Grove estate, and Minchenden House was demolished to create a clear view. Following the sale of Arnos Grove, detached houses were built on the south side of the green on the previous site of Minchenden House. All that remains as a reminder is a blue plaque on the wall of number 18, the green, which serves as a reminder of things past.
And here's an article by Laura Scramella of Parla Italiano. Parla Italiano is a school of Italian language for adults and children. Now, I make my apologies desperately now for anything that you're about to receive regarding pronunciation. But she's written a lovely article called 7 Italian Words You Think You Know. Latin and later the Italian language have had a strong influence on the English language in the past. This is usually an advantage rather, when learning Italian, as a great deal of vocabulary has the same origin and can be easily recognised. So here we go. For example, words such as ironica, sophisticato, musica, arte, dilemma, teatro, piano, scenario, all words that we know. Nowadays, it's actually the Italian language that is absorbing more words from English. For example, technology and business world. And Italians are embracing the English words with open arms. However, the English language is still importing some Italian words. The new vocabulary entering the English dictionary is often related to food and drink. However, there are a few words that you need to be aware of as they're used in Italian in a completely different way. And here are a few examples that Laura suggests. Now, number 1 in her list is latte. In Italian, this word actually means milk. So when ordering a coffee, if you wished for a milky coffee, it's better to order a cafe latte to avoid being served a whole glass of milk. Number 2 on her list is panini. Now, in Italian, this is the plural noun of panino, which means bread roll, rather than grilled sandwich. So in Italy, order a panino tostato. Number 3, we're going on to pepperoni. Now, in Italian, this word doesn't even exist. Pepperoni is a similar word. However, this is not a spicy sausage, but a sweet pepper. So when ordering a pizza, order a salami piccante. Now, number 4, we go into bolognese. Now, this means from Bologna, but the meat and tomato sauce you are actually looking for is called a ragu. Number 5, prosciutto. Now, prosciutto is both cooked ham and also cured ham, so have a go at ordering prosciutto crudo or prosciutto cotto. Now, number 6, al fresco. This actually means in a cool place. Has absolutely nothing to do with outdoors. So if you wish to be outside, better say al aperto. Funnily enough, finire al fresco means to end up in jail, but we'll not go there. Number 7, confetti. This is the last one, folks. This is actually a false friend, confetti. In Italian, confetti are sugared almonds and are distributed to family and friends on special occasions such as weddings. The funny pieces of coloured paper we throw are called coriandoli. Now, if you want to learn a bit more Italian, far better than I can speak it, do contact Laura Scaramella. Her contact details are laura@parliitaliano, that's PARLITALIANO.co.uk, or give her a call on 07941 092 593.
And now a little more down to earth, an article about Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs see more silverware hopes disappear. Connor Wickham scored his first goal in 799 days to inspire Crystal Palace to a 2-0 FA Cup fourth-round victory over Tottenham that eliminated their visitors from a second competition in 4 days. Spurs lost on penalties to Chelsea in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, and their FA Cup hopes were extinguished on Sunday, their former player Andros Townsend scoring from the spot to double Palace's lead. Defeat leaves Spurs with only a Premier League title race they are unlikely to win and the Champions League to focus on. It was in only the 9th minute when Wickham gave his team the lead. When Joel Ward advanced down the right wing and centred to Jeffrey Schlupp on the edge of the area, the midfielder carried the ball towards the near right post before shooting and forcing a save from Paolo Gazzaniga that left Wickham with a routine tap-in into a near-open goal. When Christian Benteke again fit and Bakary Sakho's return to the club from West Brom confirmed before kick-off, Palace are again rediscovering the attacking options they have missed, but it was Kyle Walker-Peters' inexperience that gifted their second goal. His careless handball when leaping under a relatively harmless cross left referee Kevin Friend with little choice but to award a 34th-minute penalty, giving Townsend the chance to score his first goal against the team he left in January 2016. He then wasted a chance to score his second when Patrick van Aanholt and Wilfred Zaha combined to put him through in front of goal, and he could barely test Gazzaniga before Palace had to rely on their goalkeeper Julian Speroni. The 39-year-old was criticised for an error that contributed to their 4-3 defeat at Liverpool the previous week, but when Kieran Trippier played a clever short free kick to Georges Kevin Nkudu, the keeper impressively denied him not once but twice. Speroni then faced a penalty when Van Aanholt clumsily fouled Joan Foyth, but Trippier, potentially unnerved by having to reposition the ball when wind blew it from the spot, wasted Spurs' finest chance by placing his effort horribly wide. Pochettino responded by introducing Eric Lamela as a half-time substitute, but the absence of Christian Eriksen and the injured Dele Alli and Harry Kane bit, his team's struggles in front of goal continued. Spurs were improved after the break, but they offered little beyond two efforts from Fernando Llorente that Speroni saved as another chance of silverware disappeared.
Here is an article on the Citizens Advice Bureau, which have been providing essential services to communities since 1939. Many people don't realise that their local Citizens Advice is a charity just like any other. We are so used to seeing a Citizens Advice Bureau, CAB, in every part of the country since way back in 1939 that it is hard to imagine being without it. Citizens Advice Enfield is trying to keep its essential services running in the face of funding cuts and has opened 2 charity shops right here in Palmer's Green. These are the first 2 Citizens Advice charity shops in the UK. The first shop at 40 Green Lanes opened in April, with the second at 370 Green Lanes, following in December. Why are these shops different? Francesca and Antonia, who manage the new shop at 370 Green Lanes, explain. Every penny we make will be spent right here in Enfield, helping local people through times of trouble. The money you spend with us might be used to provide a home visit to a disabled pensioner to sort out their benefits, advising someone who has been made homeless or lives in bad housing about their rights, helping a family affected by domestic violence. Whatever issues you care about, we will see local people affected by those issues. Francesca explains how you can help. We urgently need volunteers to help at both shops. If you have a few hours to spare each week, do pop in and see us. Donations are always welcome. Sorry, we can't take electrical items, furniture or children's equipment, such as car seats. Come and shop with us. We have lovely things for sale at both shops. Both shops are open Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m, and 370 Green Lanes is also open on Sundays, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you need our advice, please don't hesitate to ask. Our services are free and confidential and open to anyone in Enfield Borough. To talk to someone in confidence, phone our advice line 0300 330 1167 on Mondays or Thursdays between 10 o'clock and 4 p.m. Any of our shop staff will also be happy to arrange for an advisor to call you.
We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So, from the team of Danny, Peter, Marc and Ros, with Hass on the controls, it's goodbye. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the memory stick into the packet in a closed position and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.